Many turned on their heat for the first time over the weekend, but for the 6 million American families who rely on federal assistance to keep their homes warm, the government shutdown could be delaying their utility payments. WGEM Missouri Capitol reporter Hannah Falcon looks into the program.
It costs money to keep the lights on, the water running, and the heat circulating. For over 100,000 Missouri families, that money comes from the federal government.
We've had a lot of families now who've had utilities off and they were hoping to get assistance, and some of that funding hasn't flowed.
Charles Stevenson with Powerhouse Community Development, a full-service charity based in Boone County, says people who never needed help before are now coming in due to the government shutdown.
So we've got people now that are working, responsible, accountable people that are just struggling.
But while things like food stamps are on pause, Missouri is able to keep the lights on with LIHEAP.
There are other states across the country that were not able to operate a LIHEAP program this year. Because of the way that our state agency has administered these funds, we have funding available to be able to assist families.
The Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, or LIHEAP, assists families living in poverty with paying utility bills. And for many states, it's on pause until Congress reaches a funding deal. Megan Bania is the executive director of Missouri Community Action Network, which operates 17 LIHEAP distributors around the state.
New dollars are not coming into the program at this time. Agencies are operating on carryover dollars into this fiscal year.
Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe committed to keeping LIHEAP running even if those funds run dry before Congress makes a deal.
So we'll make sure that flow does not stop.
Missouri's LIHEAP payments for the winter season started on the 1st of this month and run through April. Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Hannah Falcon, WGEM News.